Well, I just got devastating news. Just was found out that Walter Williams has passed away. Walter Williams was a giant in economics, a giant. I don't think he was ever the department head at George Mason. Maybe he was, but he was just I mean, literally a giant. He's a tall guy. He was one of those guys. Here, come on, buddy. That if you're not living your life to the fullest, you're wrong. And he would not hold any. He would not give you any. What's the word I'm looking for? Any sympathy whatsoever. Man, Walter Williams. I'm going to read an article from him, but I think was he department head at George Mason. I can't remember his department. I think he might have been. I can't remember, I never took one of his classes. I met him a couple of times. Never really got in a big discussion with Walter Williams, but my department guide or whatever it is, my economic guide or whatever, Dr. Block, Walter Block, Bloch, not the other Walter Block, Block, who's another libertarian-minded economist. I remember sitting across Dr. Block's office waiting to go in to see him for something. I can't remember. I was chair of the George Mason Economics Club, and maybe we're doing so. I can't remember. But anyway, and I was waiting. So Dr. Block was over here, his office. Walter Williams is over here. And there's a black guy about my size, 5'9" or so, sitting out there waiting, an older black guy, waiting for Walter Williams' office. And we just started talking. Got up and talked about basketball. It looked like the Bullets were going to make the playoffs, and they had George Mirazan, if memory serves. We just got to chatting about basketball because all black guys like basketball. No, but most men like sports. So it was in the middle of winter time, and it's fun to talk sports with men. Black guys like sports probably just as much, if not more, than white guys. So that's if you're a man, you talk sports with other men. That's all there is to it. Anyway, so we're just talking, and just it turned out to be Clarence Thomas. Clarence Thomas. And he was going to see Walter Williams, and I went. I didn't know it was Clarence Thomas. Anyway, when I was done seeing Dr. Block, I was walking out, and some dude came up. He goes, "Hey, man, you know who you're just talking to?" I said, "No, I don't know who." He goes, "That was Clarence Thomas." I said, "Holy crap, you kidding me?" Couldn't believe it. Clarence Thomas waiting to see Walter Williams in our economics department. I was sitting there yapping about the Bullets. That was a highlight of my life. Anyway, so Walter Williams was a black guy, I think from Philly, and he didn't pull punches. It was just loved liberty. He used to say he'd walk through the airports with a cigarette, and he would invite people to give him dirty looks. I don't know if he wore a mask. I don't know, but I just a tall black guy walking through the airport is definitely going to have a lot more freedom than a white guy walking through the airport with a cigarette dangled. Let's just put it that way. But mm, anyway, let's. That really bothers me because a bastion of freedom, and Thomas Sowell is 91. He's not long. Walter Williams had substituted for Rush Limbaugh quite a bit. I don't think he did it lately. I don't really listen to Rush that much, not because I don't like him. Just I find myself getting more interested in YouTube videos. Anyway, so Walter Williams actually, well, I'll never forget on the Rush Limbaugh show. I think some young lady called and said, "I just took an economics class and I hated it. The professor was boring." And Walter Williams was pissed. I can't remember, it was like early 2000s or late 90s, something like that. He was pissed. He goes, "If a guy is teaching economics and he's making you bored, that guy should be fired immediately." And I'll never forget because he just economics is such a critical thing, man. It doesn't mean economists are going to be right. Economists exist to make astrologers look good, but anyway, so let's read this article my man Bob sent to me from the right. And I wouldn't say Walter Williams from the right. He's more from the libertarian side. And I'm not sure what the dateline is, but this kills me, man. Mm. When Thomas Sowell goes, man, these are for me. These are men of the highest stature. I look. There's a few people in my life that I've always held in the highest esteem: Walter Williams, Thomas Sowell, Rush Limbaugh, a couple others that off the top of my head just can't remember. But man, these guys went against the grain, and they freaking held on, and they fought and they fought and they won. Ah, losing a champion for freedom is tough, man. Because freedom is on the cusp. And here's a guy, an articulate guy, who didn't pull punches, who wasn't afraid to talk on behalf of freedom. And anytime you lose a warrior for freedom, the statists are winning. And it's just, man. All right, so let's read this. I was a teenager growing up in the Richard Allen housing project in North Philly when Emmett Till was lynched in Money, Mississippi in 1955. And his brutalized, unrecognizable body later recovered from the Tallahatchie River. From 1882 to 1968, 4,743 lynchings occurred in the U.S. Roughly 73% were black and 27% were white. I didn't know that many whites. Many whites were lynched because they were Republicans who supported their fellow black citizens and opposed the lawless act of lynching. Tuskegee University has the best documentation of lynching. It records an 1892 high of 69 whites and 161 blacks lynched. By the 1940s, occurrences of lynching fell to the single digits or disappeared altogether. At the time of my youth, today's opportunities for socioeconomic advancement were non-existent for black people. I like how they capitalize black people, so this must be a new, I'm looking at from the right, George Will, Jonah Goldberg, Russ Douthat, whatever his name is, those aren't right. Jonah Goldberg? Hell no. George Will? Hell no. Ross? I like Star Parker, Pat Buchanan, Mark Thiessen, I like him. But a few, college attendance was out of the question because of finances and racial discrimination. If you were not admitted to the black colleges of Lincoln University in Philly or Cheney State College, forget about college. I do not know of any student in my 1954 class of Philadelphia's Benjamin Franklin High School who attended college. Though the quality of education at Ben Franklin is a mere shadow of his past, today roughly 17% of his graduating class has been admitted to college. The true hope for a youngster graduating from high school during the 1950s was a well-paying and steady job. My first well-paying job was a taxi driver for a yellow cab company. Younger black people today have no idea of and have not experienced the poverty and discrimination of earlier generations. Also, the problems of today's black people face little or nothing to do with poverty and discrimination. Political hustlers like to blame poverty and racism while ignoring the fact that poverty and racism were much greater yesteryear, but there was not nearly as much chaos. The out-of-wedlock birth rate among blacks in 1940 was about 11% today. Today is 75%. Black female-headed households were just 18% of households in 1950. It's about 68% today. In fact, from 1890 to 1940, the black marriage rate was slightly higher than that of whites. Even during slavery, when marriage was forbidden, most black children lived in biological two-parent families. In New York City in 1925, 85% of black households were two-parent households. A study of 1880 family structure in Philadelphia shows that 3/4 of black families were two-parent households. It is not uncommon for 50 black people to be shot over a weekend in Chicago, not by policemen, but by other black people. About 7,300 black people are murdered each year, and not by white people or racist cops, mostly by other black people. The solution to many problems that black Americans face must come from within our black community. They will not come from the political arena. And one important step is for black Americans to stop being useful tools for the leftist hate America agenda. Many black problems are exacerbated by guilt-ridden white people. Often they accept behavior and standards from blacks that they would not begin to accept from whites. In that sense, white liberal guilt is a form of disrespect in the relationships of black Americans. By the same token, black people should start exploiting the guilt of whites. So let's keep in mind that history is one of those immutable facts of life. All right. R.I.P. Walter Williams. Man. All right, we'll see.